If an action cannot be an act of worship by earning you reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it is not worth pursuing. Assalamu alaikum. A moment, please. In our previous episode of A Moment, Please, How to Be Inspired the Right Way as a Muslim, we agreed that a Muslim who takes seriously his status of being Muslim in the sight of Allah should embrace his Islamic identity for Allah alone. This is the entry level of being Muslim, meaning once that is achieved successfully, one secures inclusion within the fold of Islam. Today's episode of A Moment Please is an extension of that episode, where we are taking a step up to be inspired the right way as Muslims. The decision to embrace Islam for Allah alone is a challenge on its own, and taking it any step higher is even more challenging. So, after one has decided on his identity as a Muslim and secures his place within the fold of Islam, mind you, this is between you and Allah, because we can't fool Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After that, it is time to ensure his choices and actions are motivated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. This means being Muslim is something, and making choices in life according to the teachings of Islam is something else. So let your motivation for living Islamic lifestyle be Allah alone, and for Allah alone. Here are some examples, hopefully to make it clearer. Seeking knowledge is fundamental in Islam. The closer the knowledge you seek gets you to Allah, the better it is. However, it is easy to seek knowledge to show off, or for the sake of certificates collection, and for the sake of beautifying one's CV. It is important for the Muslim to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the focus of his knowledge seeking. And that knowledge should be at least what is known as fardu ain, the knowledge which the Muslim needs to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to act upon the commands of Islam effectively. Every Muslim must know that. After purifying one's faith and creed, aqidah, Islam gives a greater amount of importance to taking care of one's modesty. This is applicable to both males and females. It is, however, unfortunate that some of us have developed the impression, or rather the misunderstanding, that a child should, especially when he reaches puberty, he should dress modestly only if his parents demands him to do so. But the truth is, your modesty, be it hijab or otherwise, for males, the cover of aura, is not because of your father, whether he is authoritative or otherwise. It should not be because of your mother, whether she is nagging or otherwise. It should not be because of your husband, whether he is controlling or otherwise. Yes, your righteous family members will expect from you to be in a hijab or to be in a modest appearance as prescribed by Islam. When they do so in response to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, even in the absence of elder family members, my dear brother, my dear sister, you are required to dress modestly or be in hijab where applicable. And the dress code must be according to the conditions set by Islam, not according to the flavor of some fashion designers who probably care less about Islam, let alone about the code dress prescribed by Islam. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. Believers, safeguard yourselves and your families from a fire which is fueled by people and stones. And it is watched over by angels who are stern and strong. Angels who never disobey Allah's commands to them, but they promptly do as they are commanded. Besides doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your Qiyamullayl can be to inspire your household to follow suit, but not to impress them. This is where we must be careful and draw the line. The only one we should aim to impress is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we inspire our household, but we impress Allah. And let that reflect in bringing happiness to the hearts and faces of our fellow human beings, and not the other way round. Yes, the blessings one achieves when he develops the habit of Qiyamullayl will not only benefit him, it will benefit him and move on to benefit his household and sometimes his neighbors and surroundings. However, the primary motivation for developing that habit is to attain Allah's pleasure and rewards, nothing more, nothing less. How beautiful will it be for a whole household to develop the tradition of Qiyamullayl? It will certainly be beautiful if all family members can come together. But then again, each one can do it in his room. It is just fine. In the worst of the best case scenarios, there must be one person who observes Qiyamullayl in the household. Well, we all know that fasting is prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially during the month of Ramadan. However, sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we pretend to be fasting, or worse still, fast to make our loved ones happy. What about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It is not worth it fasting just because everyone in the house is fasting. The Muslim must fast even if he is alone in a remote area. Therefore, as a Muslim who has willingly chosen Islam over all religions and over his personal desires, nothing should interfere in your motivation for fasting. This includes all types of fasting: Ramadan, 6 days of Shawwal, fasting on Mondays and Thursdays, fasting on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every lunar month, or even fasting on the day of Ashura with a day before or a day after. Whichever form of fasting you are able to observe, whether it is obligatory or optional, it should be for Allah alone. That is the point. The above mentioned were just 4 examples of acts of worship, which may seem inspiring and praiseworthy. At the same time, it can be waste of time and effort if the intention is put in the wrong place. What is applicable to them, to the above 4 mentioned examples, is also applicable to any form of act of worship, from the smallest act of worship to the highest form of act of worship. If taking a harmful object, which could be the tiniest nail or even a slippery banana skin off the street or the walkway of the people, is a form of ibadah that is greatly rewarding in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then imagine what the reward for greater acts of worship can be. In fact, with intention and seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything the Muslim does becomes an act of worship. In other words, if an action cannot be an act of worship by earning you reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it is not worth pursuing. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and we are also to follow in his footsteps, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. He has no partner. So am I commanded, and I am the first of those who submit, or I am the first of Muslims. In our previous episode of A Moment Please, we highlighted the importance of making a decisive decision either to be a Muslim or a Muslim, because it is not worth it choosing something else. Nothing comes close to the feeling of truly and sincerely belonging to the fold of Islam. In this episode, we discussed how important it is once we have decided to be Muslims to carry out the basic Islamic obligations with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as our focus. And for anyone who hopes to meet Allah in a good shape, form, and status, that too shouldn't be compromised. In the next episode, inshallah, we will be discussing how to take it to even a higher level. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the guidance and courage needed to refine our dunya for the best interest of our akhirah. If you have watched to this point, then consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Do like and share with your loved ones, as this will help the video to reach more and more audience. Until we meet in the next episode of A Moment, please, I leave you in Allah's protection. Wassalamu alaikum.